basically what we wanted to talk about was just knowing where to invest and when. I think like, that's a question we both get a lot. And I think that's a question a lot of people struggle with in terms of like, when should I get team? When is it best to invest in a coach? Like, when is it best to have both? Like all of those things. And I think that sometimes we confuse one for the other. And so we just really wanted to have a conversation on like, here's why you'd need team. Here's what that looks like. Here's when you'd invest in that. Here's when you invest in coaching, all of that kind of stuff. So we will do that, and Megan will obviously share her thoughts in the comments too. Bless you, Megan. Thank you. And if you all have questions, let us know. Let me know. I can answer them live about investing, and then obviously Megan can follow up with some of her thoughts too. But we are just gonna make this little tech blip work because that's what we do, right? Okay, so I think one of the, hi Katrina, oh my gosh, so happy to have you here. Thank you. Oh, Megan, you're the best. Thank you for doing that. Okay, so one of the things I think I want to talk about first when it comes to investing that I think is really interesting to think about and is always really helpful for me to think about. It's always really helpful for my clients and I remind them of this, but I think when we think about investing, we almost exclusively think about money in this space. Like investment equals investing cash. And that's totally not true. You're always investing in your business and you're always investing something. So one of some things might be money, but that's not all, right? Like a lot of the ways we invest in our business is with time. So you're always investing money or time. So if you're doing something that you're not otherwise delegating or outsourcing, time is your investment. If you're delegating or outsourcing or paying someone else to do it, money is your investment. But knowing that you're always investing something, I think is really, really helpful and empowering because it helps you make an intentional decision about that. Where I feel like when we're not looking at it through that lens, we're so often kind of thinking, well, I'm not investing right now. And then we kind of just like aren't intentional with our time and things like that. But if we know like, oh, I am always investing in something, do I feel like I intentionally want to invest my time here? Then it feels like a really smart CEO decision versus something that's like haphazardly happening. So I'm not like investing. Like I hear so often, I'm not ready to invest as like an objection people get. And I'm like, well, you're investing regardless. And it's totally cool if you want to make the choice for the investment to be time, but just knowing that that's what you're doing is really, really important. And then that's where a team comes in, is like what you might be investing is money so you can get back the time, right? But feeling like you're doing that on purpose is really, really, really important, because if not, most of us just think we're not investing. If we aren't like putting money into the business, then that's just not true, right? You get to decide what makes the most sense for you. So for a lot of people at the beginning of their business, time is their asset and it makes the most sense to invest that. But not always. Like some clients come to me and they're still in a 9-to-5. And so time is not their asset, like money is their asset. And so we're gonna get team a little bit quicker, potentially, because money is the asset they have there. So I really want you to ask yourself that question in your business right now. And obviously if you're watching or watching the replay, feel free to share it here if you like, but tell us like, what is the asset that you most have to invest right now? And really like know that answer in your brain, because that's going to make it easier for you to make investment decisions. If again, like you're really, really, really time strapped and that's not it, then you need to be probably ready to invest money. If you're super abundant with time, then you might put in a lot of legwork and invest that first. Like for me, time was definitely one of the first investments I made in my business, because I just, really like that was my asset at the time. So neither is wrong, but know what yours is. Megan said, totally, I think about investing money, time, and energy. Exactly. So like which of those are your thing? And energy is really valuable too. Like some of my clients are running businesses. They're also really, really, really present and engaged moms. So they don't always have the extra energy. So the spend or the investment of money makes more sense, because the mental energy of all of it, isn't as abundant to go around because you're doing these other things, right? So I think that's just really important. So I just want you to keep that in mind today and just know, like, what is my thing that I have to invest? And again, feel free to tell us what it is. And so then the next thing I want to talk about as it relates to this, and then I'll go into specifics, but is that idea of being intentional about it. So if you're thinking about making an investment, whether that's time or money, please, 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 please. This is like my biggest soapbox in my business, I feel like. Please make sure you're solving the right problem. This industry will take all of your money and all of your profit if you don't know what the right problem is to be solving in your business, right? Because everything is a good idea. Like, if you don't know what the right problem is to be solving, you're going to think you should invest in all of these things. You're going to think you should invest time, and you're going to think you should invest money, and you're going to think it should be in 500 ways. So if you're not sure what the right problem is to solve in your business, that's the first thing you have to figure out so that you can make sure the investment aligns to that, right? So that you're actually going to get results from it. And again, this is true whether you invest time or money. Make sure it's solving the right problem so that you actually get the return on that investment. If I make the best investment or the biggest investment in my business, but it actually is not solving the problem that I have, it doesn't matter how good that course or program or coach or anything or team member is if that's not the right problem. And I feel like if I see one thing that keeps people stuck so often, it's that. It's like, I don't actually know what the right problem is to be solving in my business. And so I'm just trying to randomly solve and invest in a lot of different ones. And again, our industry is kind of built off that, right? There is someone you can pay to solve any perceived problem you think. So you have to get really good at knowing what your problem is. So with that being said, if you don't, the first person you might want to hire would probably be a coach that can help you figure that out, right? Or have an intensive with someone that's, able to like strategically help you pinpoint that. I feel like that's a lot of what I do in intensives is like, cool, what is the actual problem we need to solve here? I feel like some of my intensive clients like come to me and they're like, I think I want an intensive on this. And then we like start to get into it and we're like, wait, that's not the problem to solve at all. Like, here's the problem. And so really like first step is like, know the right problem to solve. If you don't know that, make sure you're getting coaching or strategic support that's going to help you figure that out. I promise you, if you buy the course or invest in the team member or whatever, and you don't actually know what the right problem is to solve, you are going to feel frustrated AF and you're not making a good investment. Simple as that, right? Because you're really putting yourself in a position to kind of just like randomly solve a thing. It's like if you were investing in a company and you didn't actually research that company, like that's effectively what it is, right? Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Katie. She said, yes, my intensive was so eye-opening. So good. I'm so happy about that. Megan says, I think that's often what leads to feeling really confused or frustrated after investments. It might not have been a bad investment, but maybe it wasn't solving the right problem. Completely co-sign. Exactly. Like, you could end up hiring Megan, who I think is like basically an earth angel, right? She's like literally an angel walking this earth. But if she wasn't the right problem to solve in your business, then it would still feel like a bad investment, even though she's amazing, right? So I think that's just really important to see. So like, please, please, please know what the right problem is to solve in your business. If you're not sure, get the support to do that. That's your first step, is to get coaching. And then I think that, again, what I would say is that sometimes that's what we have to solve before we invest in other things like team, courses, etc. So some of the questions that we've been getting asked that I'll just answer, and then Megan will share her thoughts too. So one of them is like, when is it time for a coach? So this is what I would say here. It's time for a coach if you need to figure out how to get really clear and solve the right problems in your business. And then it depends on what the problem is. Like for so many of my clients, like some of the problem is they're just getting in their own way. So then a coach makes so much sense, right? So I think like, Megan, you can definitely speak to this, but like, if you're getting in your own way, a team isn't going to solve that, right? You're just going to get in your own way while you're paying other people to watch. It's funny because it's true, right? You're just going to continue to get in your own way while other people, so like if you're really, really, really struggling to, for example, like put yourself out there, then you're like, oh, okay, well maybe the way I'll do it is I'll just hire a team to like rate my content and post all of it. That might happen, but you're still going to be fully in your own way for a lot of that, and you're going to push that away, and you're going to not want to go put yourself out there, and you're going to not want to engage off that content. You're maybe going to stop the team from putting it out there. You're going to not like how they write it, or like all the same stuff is going to happen, right? Hey, Claire, thank you for being here. So if you don't know the problem to solve, or you're in your own way and you're the problem to solve, which aren't we all sometimes, right? I certainly am. That's when you get a coach, okay? When you need to figure that out. It is so hard to fully get a team to support you if you're not doing a lot of your own work on that. It is so hard to have a team that helps you fully execute your vision if you're the one kind of getting stuck there. So that's when you hire a coach, when you don't know the right problem to solve, when you want to keep solving the right problem, and when you want to continue to get out of your own way so that you can fully move things forward, and then get a team to help you do that, right? Claire says yes, or make them wait an age for a podcast episode to edit, the old me. Exactly. It's like if you're in your, that's a perfect example, Claire. Thank you for that. I'm going to use that one. But like, it's so true. Like if you're in your own way about like getting podcast episodes out there, or thinking that you're bad at podcasting or whatever, no team can solve that for you. You're just paying them to wait to edit an episode until you get out of your own way. And so that's where coaching is really helpful and can really move that needle in a different way, right? But it's, and to be clear, this doesn't mean that you constantly have to have a problem. Like I've worked with some of my clients for years and years, right? And it's not like they're constantly in their own way, but at the same time, we're all kind of constantly in our own way, like at every new level, at every new thing. So some of it's maintenance too. Like you might be hiring a coach because it really helps you stay out of your own way as you encounter each new thing, right? But at the beginning, if you're trying to decide, well, right now, where should I invest? Is it in team? Is it in coaching? Like that's how you know it needs to be coaching first. And I know Megan would probably co-sign, like that's when it's best for your team too. That's when it's best to bring in a team. Like she wouldn't want to go work on a team where someone hadn't gotten some of that support already and wasn't actively working on their own shit, because it makes it so hard for you to execute for them. Just like Claire was saying, like, you're just sitting there waiting, like, okay, so like, are you going to give me a podcast episode? Are you not? And it gets so confusing, right? Tristan said, yep, fix the pattern in every area it's expressing itself improves. Totally. So then, let's say you do decide, okay, coach is the right thing for me right now. How do I know if I need like business coach, mindset coach, sales coach, all of the above, that kind of thing, right? Marketing coach, whatever, right? And what I would say to you here, again, is kind of going back to, do I know what the actual problem is to solve? So if I know, right, that like, I feel super good, I feel amazing, I feel super confident, I'm putting my shit out there, I'm, growing, I'm like, whatever, getting people on the phone, and like the one thing that doesn't seem to be like working really well is converting them. Cool. Like I probably want sales coaching, like because everything else feels good and there's this one piece that doesn't feel locked in. If I'm really struggling to show up and believe in myself and get things done and actually execute and actually see the strategy through, etc., I'm definitely going to want to get someone that has a mindset component, because I'm the one in my own way. The thing that's hard here is that usually the problem we need to solve isn't the problem we want to solve, right? So what I see with clients is like, usually we want to hire someone that like reinforces what we're already best at, if that makes sense. So it's like, if I'm really good at sales, like I feel comfortable with sales, so it feels more exciting to hire a sales coach because it feels like, oh yeah, like sales. Okay, that feels good. I'll get a sales coach, right? But if I'm already good at that might not be my problem. Like maybe my problem is that I'm not marketing at all. So even though I'm really good when I get someone on a sales call, I'm not actually marketing. Or it might be like I'm getting in my own way so much that what seems like the sexiest thing is to hire someone that can just make me a plan. I feel like that's something I go on and on about all the time. If I'm constantly in my own way, easiest thing in the world is to think that it would be best to just hire someone to give me a plan. If you've listened to this season of the podcast at all, you know that was totally the pattern Allie was engaged in when we started working together, was like, I'm so in my own head that I just want to keep like outsourcing my power, right? Like someone just give me a plan and then I can kind of do it, but like it's going to freak me out. And so she's like spent this whole season like rebuilding that trust that like, I don't need someone else to give me a plan. Like I can trust myself. What I need is to do the mindset work to get the fuck out of my own way. So you see the point here is that it is about solving the right problem. However, it's going to be very tempting to want to solve the problem that feels easiest, not actually the right problem. So that's when you really want to drill down in your business what's actually going on. And when you're getting on these sales calls, like being willing to be like really transparent about what's happening, so that someone can give you like honest feedback, honest opinion there, instead of being like, oh great, you need help with sales, sure, sign up here kind of thing, right? But like really, really knowing what is actually the edge for you, what is actually the opportunity here. Those are the kind of investments that just absolutely knock things out of the park, and really give you the long-term result. When you kind of keep investing in the same thing because it's the comfortable thing, that's when it feels like, I mean, that was good, but like, still kind of in the same place. When it feels like, ooh, that's the most uncomfortable thing to invest in, but it's probably why I need it, like that's a good sign, you know? Hey, Nova. Nova says, regarding coaching, how to decide group program versus private coach? Great question. So what I would say here is, I think it really depends again on kind of solving the right problem. Like, so I would say like a group program is so great when you're like, what I really need is to normalize like the journey and the experience and be around other people and be in community more and kind of like have that group dynamic that shows me like, oh, like I'm not the only one dealing with this, or I'm not the only one struggling with this. When I'm looking for that like normalization and community support, and I know that solves the right problem, I think group program is totally the way to go. If I feel like I haven't even figured out kind of like, what do I need? What actually works for me? Like if I need to put like those blinders on and actually figure out what's going on for me and what works for me, I think private is the way to go. And I just think like they're such great like, oh my God, what's the word? I have no idea what word I'm trying to say. No, it's gone. Megan probably knows what word I'm trying to say. Counterparts? I don't know. Well, I'll stop. But basically, they're really different in a good way. Like, it's like one solves a certain problem, one solves another problem. So like usually like, you know, I'm mostly focused on one-on-one. Like I feel like so many of my clients come to me when they need to fucking put their blinders on. When it needs to be like, I'm not listening to anyone else. I'm not paying attention to anyone else. Like, I don't care what anyone else is doing. Blinders on. Let me figure out what works for me, what fits me, all that kind of stuff. I think they do great in a group when they're like, I actually have been in my own silo and I need to just like have community and hear what other people are doing. And so I guess what I was trying to say before is like they'll each probably serve a different role for you at a different point. And they can each be like good in a different season. It's just like coming back to complementary. That's great, Tristan. Thank you very much. That's precisely what I was looking for. They'll each be right for you in a different season of business, if that makes sense. And also back to the you're always investing money or time. Like part of the differential of group versus private is cost sometimes. So that could be relevant too. Like might be like, you know, I really do want the support, but in terms of like what I can invest, it looks like this right now. And so that might fit the best too. Okay, cool. So when should you invest in team or back end support to help you get things done is another one. So this really, really, really depends, again, on what you have to invest. So Megan, you can definitely give us your thoughts here because you're totally the expert on this. But when you want to start investing in execution support is when you are like fully the bottleneck to getting that done because of time. If you're the bottleneck, if you have an abundance of time and you're the bottleneck to getting that done, you need some coaching. If you just seriously do not have an abundance of time and you're the bottleneck to getting things done, it's time to start investing in team, right? So everyone's going to do that at different points in their journey. Like I was saying earlier, like if you have 9 to 5, you might have the resource of money, but you don't have the resource of time. And so to get the things executed in your business that you want to get executed, the number one thing you might be investing in at that point is team. It's not because you're in your own way or holding yourself back or telling yourself stories. It's like literally because time is not the asset that you have most at that moment. So that's really important to think about. Like if there is a difference between like, I am really like freaked out and in my own way, so I'm just stalling on doing something, and I literally only have 10 hours to work in my business, and so fundamentally like these things can't happen, and so I'm going to bring someone in. The other thing that really makes us ready to invest in done for you execution support is when we actually know what's working. So this is something Megan and I preach a lot because we think it's so important, which is if you actually know what works in your business, then delegating that and paying money for it makes the most sense in the world, right? Because you can say, well, I know if, you know, someone helps me put XYZ content out, that I'm gonna get XYZ calls booked from that, and it becomes worth it. And so the return on investment is so clear. If I don't actually know what generates a result or works yet in my business, I need a coach, because anything I delegate to team, I'm just guessing at that point. I'm like basically putting money in a slot machine, and maybe it'll help, maybe it won't, I don't know, right? And so that's not like the way you want to go into investing in team. You want to go into investing in team being like, listen, I am like short on time here, but I know if X, Y, and Z get done, that shit happens in my business. And I know if X, Y, and Z get done, then I get to use that time to do A, B, and C. That also makes shit happen in my business and helps me get results. So big difference in terms of feeling like you know the investment is gonna pay off for you versus feeling like you're just throwing spaghetti at a wall, right? Megan says, yes, totally agree. I think investing in team is great when you are trying to get more time. Your team can allow you to essentially get more hands in your business to get more done. Exactly. If you need time back, that's the way to do it. And make sure you know what actually is going to move the needle forward. I think one of the things people really struggle with when they first invest in team is like sometimes they're like, oh, great, I hired this team and I have this list of shit that I haven't gotten to in months. And so can y'all just do all that? Well, okay, in theory that's good, but like you're not actually saving time because you weren't doing those things, so that's a problem. And if you weren't doing them and your business is still growing, are they really that much of a necessity? No, we want to go back to what actually saves you time and what actually is working in your business, right? Megan says, and when you know what works in your business, it makes it easier for your team to execute on that because there's more clarity around what the vision strategy is and you're not relying on your team to help you figure that out. Exactly. Which is very important. And again, this is the difference between coach and team. If you don't know the vision or strategy, you need to get yourself some coaching. If you know the vision and strategy and you're just capped on time, you need to get yourself a team. Like no coach is going to be able to help you manufacture more hours in your week, just like no team member is going to be able to tell you like, yeah, just do these 5 things and then I promise your whole vision will come to life. Like those, like they just fundamentally solve different problems. And so that's why would take it back again to that idea of like, know the problem you're solving, because those are just two completely different things. And when you expect one of the other, you'll get really frustrated. If you expect your team to help you vision cast and strategize all the time, you're gonna feel super frustrated with them, to be honest, right? And same with your coach. If you expect your coach to be able to tell you how to get 20 hours worth of work done in 5, like there's just only so much efficiency they can help you implement. You know what I mean? So I think that that's really just so important to see, which is like, again, you could have the best team in the world, but if it's not solving the right problem, it doesn't matter. You could have the best coach in the world, but like, if it's not solving the right problem, literally doesn't matter. I feel like sometimes when we're like super strapped for time, then that's when someone gets like a course or program and it's like, well, you barely even have time to execute in your business, and now that time is going to completing this course. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that needed to be solved with teams. So anyway, that's just an example, but really important to make sure you keep solving the right problem. And so it takes away the frustration of like, how is the coach not able to help me manufacture this thing in 5 hours, or how is the team not able to make sure they like, know the vision. Megan and I were actually just on a training with my Millionaire Makers Mastermind before this, and we were kind of talking about how like the point is we each have our own really, really, really clear roles, and them together is what like makes the business move forward. And so your role is to have the vision, have a clear strategy, and your team's role is to help you fully execute that. And so when you look at it through that lens, it's like, oh, well, if I'm completely missing the vision, or I'm in my own way, or like I have a lot of like limiting beliefs coming up, or I don't even know the strategy, I need a coach. Like, that's not my team's job at all. If I know all of those things, but like I'm serving a ton of clients, so I'm just capped on actually doing them, team's it. Like there's no other person that could out strategy that. You know what I mean? So really getting clear on that, I think, is super important. And then again, solving the right problem. Like, if you're super clear on where you want to go and what you want to do, but you're capped on time and you're buying a course, like, it's just the thing that sits on the shelf, it's just the thing that feels frustrating. So I think that's super important. Okay, so then the next question is, when is it time to get copy support or invest in templates? Okay, so I am a really big fan of doing, like, how do I want to say? Like, writing your own copy as a starting point. I think, again, it's like the difference between, am I hiring it out because I'm capped for time, or am I hiring it out because I'm telling myself a story that I can't do it and I'm stuck, right? So I love to like encourage all my clients, like, don't hire out copy immediately, because then you're kind of reinforcing the like, oh, well, I can't do that in my business, right? Hire it out when you're like, okay, I know I have a good foundation. I'm sure an expert could make this better, but like, I'm good. Like, I can write and be clear on my message all day long, but I need someone to like help me leverage that and move it forward and use the time to do that. I just don't have the time to continue to write. But you see how those are like different things. Again, it's like, I can outsource it because I think, oh my God, I can't possibly. And really, I'm just like stuck in my own head at that point. Or I can outsource it because I'm like, oh, you're probably gonna be amazing at this, maybe even better than me, and I just don't have the time to do it. So that's awesome. Again, see how those are really different. Our brains want to do it when it's uncomfortable. Oh my God, it's super uncomfortable for me to write copy, so like, let me just get a copywriter. But then it's really hard for your copywriter to make you happy, because all the reasons it's uncomfortable for you to write copy are probably still going to trigger you about whatever copy they write. So if you are really freaked out on like bragging on yourself or talking about results, when they write a bunch of copy that does all that, guess what? You're still not going to like it, So it's really helpful to be like, okay, cool. Like, I got to solve the mindset problem of like why I feel so weird putting results in copy, not outsource that problem. But if I'm like, yeah, all the results, you could probably even do it better than me potentially, which is great. But I feel clear and okay about that, then yeah, like help me leverage my time, help me get that time back. So you see how those are like, you could be investing in the same thing for totally different reasons and intentions. One is probably going to leave you feeling disappointed and probably more triggered because now you spend a ton of money on this thing that you're triggered about, right? And one is going to just help you move the needle forward and actually get in action and actually get going, right? Completely different things. And Megan, you can maybe answer this too, but like from a team perspective, that makes it so much easier for them too, because they actually come in and solve the right problem. But if I'm the copy person coming in and you have that trigger around results, and so then you don't really like the copy, and then we're going back and forth and it's a whole thing, I'm going to be frustrated as fuck as the team member too. So really know that like you can do the same thing. It matters how you're coming at it. Does that make sense? Okay, and then in terms of templates, what I would say here, Megan is the queen of templates, so I will let her share on this a little bit too. Again, so sorry she has to do it in the comments because we couldn't figure out how to both get live. But and also, if you want Megan's templates, go to her website, which is like the prettiest website of all time ever. It's whitespace.team. But she has templates on like the content formula we use, how we launched podcasts, how we manage the podcast, how to hire a team, all of those kind of things. And so those are just examples, but like here's when to get a template is when you feel prepared to execute it, whether that's you or your team, right? So for example, like if you're ready to, like the reason a lot of people buy Megan's content template is because they have a team that's ready to execute on that, and they want to give them like a system that actually is proven to work for that. Or they know they're about to launch a podcast and they want to give their team a system that's proven to work on that. Where I think people get stuck sometimes is they feel like, again, template is the solution to a mindset issue, and it's not, right? Like if you're freaked out about launching a podcast, like the template doesn't solve that problem. If you're ready to launch a podcast, you have episodes ready to go, you have a team ready to go, a template crushes that problem, right? Same with content. If you're like, oh my God, I'm so freaked out about putting out content, maybe I'll just buy this template. Again, you're not solving the right problem. If you're like, I have content coming out of me all the live long day, I just don't know how we can organize it and get it out there better, that's when a template's going to serve you. So what you really want to pay attention to is you might be trying for the same end result no matter what. So where we're making a lot of mistakes in investing is we're investing just on the end result that we want. We're like, oh, well, I want to launch a podcast and Megan has a podcast template. Obviously, I will just buy that. Good in theory, bad in practice, right? Because if the reason my podcast hasn't launched yet is my own shit that I probably need to process with a coach, template doesn't solve that. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. Like if I want to launch the podcast and I like totally know the context, the scope, the messaging, I'm so into it, I'm so ready, I'm so excited, and I just am like really strapped for time when it comes to like the recording, the working in my business, all of that kind of stuff, a coach probably isn't going to solve that either, right? Get a fucking template and pass it off to your team. So again, it's just like, what is the actual problem here? And this is why most people have both. Like almost all of the clients I have me and team because it works together, right? They have me and team and would buy a template for their team, right? It all works together. I'm not saying you always have to choose either or, but I'm saying like sometimes we have to know what the actual reason is behind what we're doing. If we're just investing based on the end outcome we want, it's going to be very confusing because everyone has 100 ways to get you that outcome. Make sure the way to get you that outcome solves the actual problem you have, right? Megan says, yep, I see my templates as a way to save you the time of figuring out the system to help make that easier and more streamlined. Exactly. Again, it kind of goes back to like saving the time, right? Making it more streamlined, not so that you don't have to like stress about it. mentally. No, like you still have the mental stress of like having to put a podcast out there. But if you want the time component help, there it is. And so really helpful to just continue to see that distinction through a lot of different things. Like another example I'll give you of this that I feel like people get so caught up in is they're like, oh, I'm like so freaked out about launching, so I'm going to buy a launch template. I mean, okay, I get that the end outcome we want is to launch, but if you're so in your head about launching, all you did was spend $100 on a template to continue to be freaked out about launching, right? So just really pay attention to what that is for you. And that's like, if you're truly being honest with yourself on stuff like this, it is going to be very obvious when it's time to invest. If you're wanting to kind of like skirt around some of this stuff, it's going to be easy to invest a lot of money in ways that don't serve you because our industry is literally built for that. So I think that that's like the biggest takeaway here, which is exactly what I started with and pretty much the theme of this whole thing. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Solve the right problem, right? Invest in a way that solves the right problem. Make sure you're being really honest with yourself and you're actually walking through all of that. Most of us are investing from an emotional place and not thinking that through at all. We're just feeling super stressed one day, seeing a thing that promises to solve all the things, give us the end result we want. We're like, fine, okay, fine. Guess I'm just going to do it. I'm like so stressed out. I don't want to deal with this. Again, it's coming from that reactivity. It's coming from not solving the right problem. If you can calm yourself enough and get to neutral to be like, but what would actually be the solution to this problem? Like say I was going to get the end outcome. Cool, fine. What's actually going to get me there? Is it getting out of my own way? Is it leveraging time? Is it just having a template? Like be truly honest with yourself or get coaching that's going to help you be truly honest with yourself, because that is when you're going to feel really good and actually start seeing returns from your investment. If you're just doing that thing where like you pick what seems to be like the easier path, like a template is definitely an easier path than having to get like deep mindset coaching on like why you're freaked out about visibility. But Megan doesn't want you to buy a template and just have it sit there for 3 months because you're not using it. And so it's really important to solve that right thing. Where conversely, as a coach, like if you're coming to me and you're like, I have no problem with visibility or whatever, I'm just busy as fuck and I like don't have extra time right now. I'm like, okay, well, like, you know, I can give you support on that, but what we're really going to have to do is like delegate some of that. So again, you see how like it's frustrating on either end when you're not solving the right problem, and like both are good, both have their place, both are gonna do so much good in your business, but you really, really want to make sure the investment actually solves the right problem, or the template sits on yourself. The coach is just saying like, yeah, I don't know what else to help with. You know what I mean? Obviously a coach can, I help a lot of my clients with delegation, but you get my point. Like I can't go do the work in their business either. So hopefully that clears it up. Number one, think about if you have time or money to invest and what that looks like. Number two, actually solve the right problem. Keep solving the right problem. And know that like you might have multiples of that. Like again, most of my clients do have a coach and do have team, but like there's different points in time at which you'd invest in each. And so hopefully this just helped you kind of figure out where you're at, what the right one is for you. If you guys have questions about this as you're watching the replay, let us know. Megan will jump back in and answer them. I will too. Again, so sorry we couldn't get her on here today, but we will troubleshoot that. And if any of y'all watching know a solution to that, we were going live on Zoom and Zoom isn't letting us do that to the group anymore. So we would love to get back on here together at some point. Again, Megan will obviously research that, but if anybody's already been down that road, let us know. Hopefully this was really helpful and makes it really clear on when to invest in what. Megan, I appreciate you for being here. Or, yeah, she said we'll figure it out for next time, of course. I appreciate you being here in the comments, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, y'all.